Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. This week, our guest is Michelle Pusateri, founder and Granola Master at Nana Joes Granola, selling at farmers markets and quality grocery stores throughout Northern California. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I'm a longtime farmers market manager and education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager and market consultant, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer and marketing director for Farmers Market Pros.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Gusto. Whether you have a team of 2 or a larger group of employees, Gusto makes it easy to process payroll, support your HR needs, and even coordinate insurance and benefits. Their system is easy to manage online and comes at a reasonable price. We use it ourselves, so it's easy to sing their praises. Good help can be hard to find nowadays, and making payroll and benefits easy is one way to keep employees happy. Click the Gusto logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com to get started today.
I got paid by Gusto today.
Well, those emails, hey, you're getting paid.
Yes.
Yes.
They're kind of a MailChimp tone on their email, so it's like, hi, you're getting paid today.
Get ready to party. Yeah, I like it. They're great. Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. Today we are talking with Michelle Pusateri, founder and Granola Master at Nana Joes Granola. After spending years working as a pastry chef in high-end restaurants in San Francisco, Michelle set off on her own venture in 2010 and launched Nana Joes Granola at local Bay Area farmers markets. Over a decade later, Nana Joes is a multi-million-dollar company, and Michelle's delicious granola can be found in grocery stores all over Northern California, online, and, of course, still at farmers markets. Welcome to Tent Talk, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We're really excited to talk to you today. So we'll kind of just jump into it. Can you give us a little professional background? Like, how did you get into this business? What did you do before Nana Joes, and what led you to start Nana Joes?
Started in the service industry. I was a barista in the 80s before it was really popular to be a barista, and slinging coffee at a mall, cappuccinos, all that good stuff. And then transitioned from that into bartending. I became a cafe manager. I went to college. I started bartending, and that really fast forwarded me into the whole service industry spectrum. I started bartending. I started managing bars, and then I moved around a lot, really trying to find out who I was, what I was put on this earth for. And I took a class with a friend of mine, a baking it and pastry class. They were taking culinary skills, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. Maybe I'll move to back of the house, because I was really bored with bartending, and the life of bartending is really hard on you. So I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to really change careers. And so I loved baking. I loved baking ever since I was a little kid. I always felt the most at home when I was in a kitchen, and that was like my breath. That was like the blood flowing through my veins is what I felt when I was in that kitchen. I felt at home. I felt like I had a place on this earth. And so I decided that I was going to take this baking and pastry class. And it was like the first 3 weeks were all the science of baking, and no hands-on, no in the kitchen, no recipe development, no nothing. It was just like reading a book about how the science of bread, how the science of different sugars affects your cakes and all that stuff. And I fell in love. I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And so I continued on. I left Texas and came back to California and went to the Culinary Institute of America up in St. Helena, did a 9-month program. I was in my 30s, and I was like, I don't have 4 years to waste. I'm getting old. And if I want to be in a kitchen, I want to start a little bit earlier. So I did that, and it turned out that I loved it, and that it was really, really exciting for me. So at that point, when I was done with school, I was given, I was staging at the French Laundry at the same time. I was in culinary school, working a full-time job, going to school. It was a lot. I mean, it was a lot, but I just had this thought and passion for baking and pastry and that science. And I found my home and where I wanted to be. So my dad had hip surgery at that point when I was done with culinary school, and I was the only child that wasn't starting a family or have their own business. And so I thought I'll go back to Texas for a little bit and really help out with my dad. And so that kind of threw me back into the service industry, but also allowed me to kind of branch out and do desserts for restaurants in Dallas with 75 seats or under. So I kind of created these dessert programs for restaurants in Dallas. And then when I moved back to California, to San Francisco, because I just knew that's where I wanted to be, I couldn't find a pastry job. It was 2008. It was 2006. It was still during the boom. And I couldn't find a job, and I couldn't find an apartment because I didn't have a job, and I couldn't find, a job because I didn't have an apartment. And it just became this cycle of, wildness. And I didn't know where I was going to live. So I lived in my car for a little bit, and then I lived at a hostel, because the hostel, you could only be there for 2.5 weeks. And then I finally went back up to Napa and stayed with some friends who knew somebody who worked down here as, waiting tables. So I started waiting tables at Chow on Church Street. And then I got lucky. And, the owner of Chow, one of the owners of Chow at that time was Jeff Hannock, and he was opening up Nopa. And I got an in with Nopa right when they opened. And I started front of the house and then slowly worked my way back of the house within the Nopalito family, after I took a little hiatus and moved to when By Right Creamery was opening up. I started on that team.
So you pretty much covered the entire industry in San Francisco. You've been connected with everyone there.
I wonder if she knows Allie Ball from working at By Right.
Oh, maybe.
I do, actually. She was my first buyer, and she really helped me project my company into what it is today. So I started Nana Joes. Yeah, I started Nana Joes in 2010. I guess I should say that granola found me.
I love that.
I wasn't searching for granola or for becoming an entrepreneur or a founder. One of the things that, kind of brought me to it was just health and wanting to really have a really nutritious breakfast in the morning. And I started surfing. I had met somebody online who's now my husband, and I had started. Yeah. I started surfing in the mornings and really, really wanted to have something that fueled my surf sessions, because I was crashing out. And I realized that a lot of the granola on the market was so full of sugars that it was just making me crash out mid surf session. So as a trained pastry chef, I, thought, hey, you know what? I can make my own granola. So that set me on a path of figuring out what I needed to really fuel my body. And I needed protein, I needed fiber, I needed the right amount of fats, I needed, whole food ingredients and no refined sugars to really get me to the point where I could, paddle out for an hour or two and really, feel good. And so one of the things that, I did was, started making the Sunset Blend and giving it to friends and family, because I'm Italian. I make too much. And I thought, I could sell this. The first store I sold to was Filetti's, which was right next door to Nopalito. So that was a really easy in. I just went in and I said, hey, if I start making this granola and I want to sell it, would you sell it on your shelves? And we'll sell anything you make, because I used to give them free, Palettas, popsicles. And so that was kind of my into the grocery stores. And it was pretty easy to get in that way. I don't know otherwise how easy it would have been. And then with that, I started doing farmers markets. And I quickly was in one, and then I was in 2 more farmers markets. And then I was in a total of 5 at one time. But then I decided that I really wanted to start really working on wholesale and getting into grocery stores. But farmers markets is where we kind of cut our teeth and where we really still have the availability to do recipe development and throw it to our farmers market customers to see their reactions and how they like it. That's one of the best ways we've been able to add products onto our line. If, there are a lot of people who are requesting a certain product, then we continue on with that product.
Awesome.
Wow. So you kind of just ran the whole gamut, and working in the restaurant industry. I know we always say that's such a good, that those skills translate so well to being in a packaged food business and working in the farmers markets for sure. So going from working in a restaurant to having a packaged food business, how is that transition for you? Because you were customer facing at the markets, but really you're just working a lot in the kitchen. Did you work out of a commercial kitchen, like a rental kitchen to make the granola? And how was the process kind of doing your own thing versus working in a restaurant kitchen?
Yeah, sure. So going from a restaurant kitchen to doing my own thing, I was doing that at the same time for about 6 to 8 months. I was in a commissary kitchen. I was at the JCC and their dairy kitchen making granola. So it was a pack in and pack out situation. And then I moved to a different kitchen, the Mission Creek kitchen, which no longer exists. But after that, I decided in 2012 that I wanted to build out my own facility because I realized that I'm very much a stickler on rules, and I'm very much a stickler on where everything is in the kitchen. And working at a commissary with a whole bunch of other people, and another commissary had started inside a commissary. So that was a little bit weird. And I thought, I really want to build out a facility. So I built out a facility in 2012, the same facility we're still in right now. And I built it to where I could grow for however long, probably in our facility now, we could go up to about $10 million, but in sales revenue. But before, I was able to increase our revenue by 176% with that decision of building out our own kitchen because I had the demand. I just didn't have the time in the commissary kitchen I was in. And that whole pack in, pack out situation, and some of my ingredients were in the fridge, and I would go in and there would be a whole pig hanging there. And I'd be like, I can't do this anymore.
Shared kitchens are so rough.
Yeah, commercial kitchens. I mean, they widely
so
varying
bad.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very helpful.
Yeah.
They serve a nice purpose
And some
for
of
what
them are
they
great.
do.
Some
but
of them
yes.
are wonderful, but then sometimes it just feels like you're living in a dorm room
Yeah.
with 10 other people.
10 other people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
smart.
I think that was one of my main things was I don't play well with others. I've been in a lot. I don't. Not
It's
if
good
you're
to
not
know that
following
about
the-
yourself.
Yeah.
It's just good
Yeah.
to recognize what's good for you, what's not good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're not following the rules and you're not worried about other people's safety in the kitchen, because I came from kitchens that, I was trained at the CIA, and I was at the Four Seasons, I was at the Fairmont, I was at Nopalito, I was the pastry chef of Magnolia. And at all of those places, it was very, very,
Maybe more structured than maybe more structured than a commercial kitchen is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. So being in that commissary, there was one point where somebody was behind me and I didn't realize they were behind me. They didn't stay behind, and I backed up at the commissary, and I was pulling out a sheet tray, and it ended up getting a burn on my upper lip because it just I backed up into them, and then
Push forward.
He pushed a little bit because he got nervous, and it was just a total reaction. But
Oh no.
that's
Time
when
to
I
build
was
a kitchen.
Hot sheet pan to the face. Time to go.
That's
which
when
is
I
a
always
whole
decided
other
to
thing.
change careers, when I get a hot sheet pan to the face. That's it.
That's how you know.
Gotta
It's
draw the
time.
It's time to go. That's right. Sure
That's
time.
100% the cue. You got to get out of there.
So, Michelle, we want to hear about your farmers market experience, because you've been
Sure.
in it for a while now.
Yep.
So which farmers market did you start at?
We started at the College of San Mateo, which is we're still in one of our most popular farmers markets.
Yeah, it's a great market.
It's such a good market. It's a destination market, which is different because there's parking around. There's not a lot of neighborhoods where people can walk from in that area. So Yeah. So it's a great market. There's a really good clientele there, and people are really kind and generous there, and they know the value of food, and they also know, you know, the value of eating whole foods. Like food is medicine, right? And I think a lot of people that go to that market really subscribe to that. And then there's also a lot of people who, can't really afford to shop at the grocery stores for organic produce. So they go to the farmers markets at the end of the market, and they get those deals that some of those farmers are putting their produce on sale at the end of the market if they're not doing a Sunday market. So I like that market for that. There's a larger demographic of people that go to that one. And then we're also in the Ferry Plaza Farmers Market, which has been incredible for us. So we have these little postcards that we hand to people if they're from out of town. Like, here's 25% off of our website. And pre-pandemic, we saw a lot of traffic coming back from those little coupons. So, and the promotions, yeah. So that one is a great one for really, branching out and getting more people to come to our website and try our granola from all over the country. We saw a huge rush of customers coming to our website using that promo code after a market that had a lot of tourists in it. So during the summer months when people are coming to San Francisco, not realizing that it's not going to be warm.
Right. Yeah. Well, what did Mark Twain say? Coldest winter I ever spent was the summer in San Francisco.
Yeah.
The whole time I lived in San Francisco, I was freezing the entire time.
It
was just cold the whole time.
Well, it's interesting that it sounds like for you've got a really well built up wholesale business, but you're still in markets for some of the things that markets supply that people don't even think about, which is being an amazing focus group as you're developing new products, and then also as cross marketing. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're building a lot of your online business from being at those markets. So markets are a great source of income, but even if you're not looking at them as your primary source of income, they can be so valuable.
Yeah. So
exactly.
I mean, that kind of leads to our next question. Like, what is it specifically, and maybe we already answered this, that has kept you selling in farmers markets all these years?
I think it's a great source of income for us. So it allows us to have a little bit more. We do, anywhere from 10 to 12,000 with those two markets. And I think, that's just income that's pretty easy for us to get. And then also what's keeping us mainly at the Ferry Plaza is just having that, hopefully tourism comes back to San Francisco, is having that, outreach of product. And then it's fun. Like, I love being at the farmer's market. I mean, I'll work a farmer's market on Saturday, and then I'll go to a farmer's market on Sunday. So it's like, I love them. I think it's great. It's great networking. It's great meeting people. All of those people that go to farmers markets become brand ambassadors for you because they really get to know your brand. They get to know who you are. They get to know the reason why you do it. And, a lot of our customers will send out packages to their friends or buy a bunch as gifts. We do like a gift of granola every holiday season, or we do little 1 ounce bags, like sampler bags for people to put in stockings or to hand to their friends or to put in goodie bags or, and I think that's been a great way for us to kind of get our brand out there as well, because there's a certain type of person who really cares about what they eat that goes to the farmer's market. And I think that's part of our ethos. That's part of who we are, is that we really, really care about the ingredients that go into products. And, also that's how we got our cashew white peach blends. The farmer Blossom Bluff is an organic farmer of stone fruit. And I was seeing that he had a whole bunch of white peaches that were overripe that he was giving to the people who sell eggs for, their farm, for their pigs, for the chickens, and I was like, what can we do with that? Like, how can they value add that product? And one of the things I talked to Bryce about was, hey, if you could slice these on the farm, dehydrate them for us on the farm, we will buy them for you for a premium price. And that way you have a value added product. And we've been doing that with them since 2014. And that's our
that's
cashew
amazing.
white peach blend. Yeah, because I wanted peaches that were unsulfured, unsugared, unoiled, that were just like that pure, like deliciousness that's dried in a granola. And that's, a big seller of ours.
So since you've been in farmers markets for so long, do you have any advice for vendors that are longtime farmers market vendors that are maybe feeling a little burnt out, or just kind of get the groove
fresh?
Yeah, get that groove back, stay excited about farmers markets? How do you keep it fresh for Nana Joes?
I think how we keep it fresh for Nana Joes is, we'll switch up our setup. I think that's a big thing to kind of keep it fresh. So we'll change the color of our tablecloth, change the way that we set up our table. That's one way to keep it fresh. I think it just takes a certain type of person, I think, who wants to, be able to put themselves out there. And it's not, honestly, it's not for everybody. If you don't have that willingness to kind of really put yourself out into the wild, it's really hard. And that, I think that can really, coincide with burnout. Is it burnout, or is it that you're an introvert, and I think also just, being at the farmers markets is amazing. Like if you need to hire somebody, we have somebody who does the Ferry Plaza farmers market now on the weekends, and I'll stop by and give her a break because I love farmers markets. But Pete, my husband, does the one in San Mateo, and I think hiring somebody on can help out with that too. Even if it's for like just a few hours for you to be able to take a break, or hire somebody on who can pick up and then drop off the products is another way for burnout. But I think that exposure is just really great. There's new people moving to San Francisco and to the Bay Area all the time. And that's normally where people will go who are health conscious and really think food is medicine, go to start. So that increases where we are, like in San Mateo. That San Mateo Whole Foods has awesome sales because people have tried it at the farmers markets.
Interesting. Do you think when they find your product at Whole Foods, do any of those people travel the other direction? Do they maybe pull you up online and see that you're at a farmer's market and say, hey, I got this at Whole Foods, but I want to go see the folks that are making it at the market? Do you see it going that way too?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody's sales are going to ebb and flow for sure. Like there'll be times when it's really windy out or it's rainy and our sales are $500 and we see a little tick increase at that Whole Foods that's close by, or that grocery store that's close by, like Rainbow. So I think that's, it does ebb and flow. I think that it should. Yeah, I think it should. I mean, you're looking at your stores for velocity to get into more stores. So it's kind of like, which is better, that direct cash or that way for you to get more velocity on the store shelves, to get more wholesale accounts. And I also think too, on the flip side of that is, you really get the opportunity when you're out at, talking to people, like, what is it that you want? What is a granola that you're looking for? I mean, there's always those questions. You can do surveys to kind of keep it fresh with your customers. I think
it's a great product development site for sure. Yeah. It sounds like you
100%.
have Mm-hmm. So you have dedicated farmers market employees. You're not using the same employees in your production facility as you are at the markets, it sounds like. How many employees do you have altogether now?
10.
Oh, 10. Okay, so that's and you're talking about a pretty big, large capacity kitchen, right? So 10 people.
It's about 5,000 square feet.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot of employees. That's great. And when you said you'd never work a corporate job again, are you doing different things in terms of managing your employees, kind of based on your case study of what not to do with a corporate staff?
Yeah, I mean, I think we pay really well. That's one of the things that we do. I've really been adamant about taking care of my staff. I think COVID really showed us how important that is. We don't have a huge turnover with production. Everybody really gets along. Everybody likes working here. I'm really lucky in that way. And I think looking at employees as people instead of machines has been really huge, and being able to keep them. I've learned a lot, and really looking towards them for how to become a better leader every day is something that I look at. How can I make sure that people feel safe when they walk in that door? How can I make sure that if people are injured or hurt, that they will come to me and let me know? How can I make sure that everybody's really got a voice, and that I listen to them? I think that's really important. I don't allow anybody to yell at anybody here. So if somebody's really angry and they want to yell, that's something that I like have had to get rid of employees for. But most of our employees have been here since we opened this facility.
Oh, that's great.
So
wow.
2012, 2013, we have a
That's
very,
awesome.
very low turnover in our production staff.
Yeah, a lot of times, especially small businesses as they're growing, they don't seem cognizant of the fact of how much time and expense is involved in replacing an employee by the time you spend time
Right.
looking for them and training them from scratch. So being a better leader and retaining people is huge. And it's a good, not just being a better person, but building a better business.
Yeah. It's a sign of a healthy business if
exactly.
your employees are sticking around.
Yeah, sticking through it.
Yeah, it's great. Probably put you ahead of the curve too in dealing with the whole COVID, lack of staff, that kind of thing. You've already established that you're a great place to work. We had read the Chronicle article where you were talking about some COVID challenges and the supply chain breakdowns and things. So, I mean, that's part of it, right? Being able to retain your employees because you've already established a well-trained group of people that you value as human beings. And so you kept them when a lot of food service organizations were losing people and having a hard time replacing them. What other kinds of... the supply chain things, though, were another challenge on top of the people things. What kind of things have you had to deal with on that? And is it easing up at all now?
No, I don't think it's going to ease up for a while. I mean, if you look at it, so we have about 52% increase in cost of goods. And it's hard. You know, you can't have the growth of CPG. So in March and April of 2020, right, when the pandemic hit and there was all that panic buying, what happened is that created an entirely new problem of demand shock, which means that everybody was trying to produce as much product as they could. Nobody knew what was happening. We were doing the same thing. I told my team, I was like, I want to keep you all employed. I want to keep you all coming in. We're an essential business. Let's really, really work on, producing as much granola as we can, because we don't know if we're going to get shut down. So we took as many orders as we could. And that's another reason why having your own facility was so key to us, because we didn't have to go to a co-packer and say, here's what we want, right? And then they'd be like, oh, it's going to be another 6 months before we can get that out to you because we have 40 other people who are doing the same thing. So I think with the demand shock, what people including myself didn't realize is that a farmer only produces a certain amount of ingredients a year. And then they add another 20% yield onto that. So growth, whatever, year over year, they're growing 20%. So that's what they do. And then with the demand on, more and more companies, organic ingredients, trying to become organic, trying to become non-GMO certified, being gluten-free. I think all of that encompassed created this demand shock where there weren't enough products out there to buy. And so normally you're sitting on, in 2020, we were using the end of 2018, starting to use 2019 nuts. Everything's put into cold storage just the way that it works. But in 2020, all those 2019, almonds or sunflower seeds were being sold to the highest bidders, right? Because people, the big corporations were like, I need this. Give me all that you can. So that's a lot of that demand shock. And another thing that people didn't realize was climate change. Last year, 2021, there was a huge drought and a huge heat wave in Canada and in the United States. So that, our oats are purity protocol and they come from Canada, and they yielded only 50% of the crop. So they weren't going to sell it to the person that we get it from in the States in Petaluma. So I basically had to buy 30 $1,000 worth of oats and store them in my warehouse. Thank goodness I had the warehouse, but that was a huge
$30,000.
Well, I had the
or capacity of getting a credit line or
from,
whatever it takes to get it.
Yeah, from the EIDL loan.
Oh, excellent.
And that was how I was able to do that. Otherwise, I would have never been able to do that. And I'd be like, right now, I have no oats. I can't make those blends. So with that being said, I mean, there was a lot of factors that bled into that. It wasn't just the transportation across the country. It wasn't just the increase of like me sending a pallet down to my distributor down in LA for $100 is now $400. It wasn't just that. You add on all these different layers of your packaging people doesn't have the plastic because, they had to shut down their facilities 3 or 4 times because of COVID. They're out of material, and that's a lot of the looking at all of these things hitting at once. And then you're like, whoa, I don't know how to do this. So I did that article. And one of the things that came out of it was in 2019, I got to look at the price increases from 2019 and what we're going to be paying this year. And that's where that 52% came in. So doing that article was the best thing I've ever done because I was able to really hone in and look at everything.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So sometimes, those little silver linings. And I think you said then that you've avoided raising your prices, even though the costs were going up. Are you still doing that, or will you be able to maintain that? Or we're seeing now prices are going up because material costs are going up and labor's going up.
We're going to have to raise our prices on some of our stuff. We already took our free shipping off of our website and put it up to $60 instead of $30. And that created a little bit of a dip in our online sales, but most of the people that order from us understand and are ordering like $60 worth now, which is just, putting more money back into our pocket along with having to deal with all of the freight charges. We're also dealing with Amazon increasing their rates. We're dealing with, USPS, a box we used to be able to send for $5 is now $8. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that increase and also into our thoughts on how to really make sure that we are profitable again. We weren't profitable in 2021. We actually lost a lot of money, but we were profitable in 2020. I mean, last year we had to buy stuff out of network. We were buying sunflower seeds for, under $1 in 2019, and then we're paying $2.50 in 2021 for
it's just so exponential.
Seed.
So I think
you just never know.
Some of the lessons there, especially for our smaller businesses, farmers markets and things, is have some reserve. So many people think about starting on an absolute shoestring, and while the barrier to entry is certainly lower at farmers markets, you still need some reserve. You need to have those backup plans. You need to be documenting your income so you're eligible for EIDL loans and for supplements when you need a little bit of help going through those crises. And I think sometimes our farmers market vendors forget that, and they're not quite as meticulous about bookkeeping and things. So those are all really good learning points to make sure that they think about that. And I guess the good news is as your shipping goes up, you still have farmers market business that you can use to supplement your income where it's direct to consumer, and you don't have to worry about 100%. The increased costs of shipping and some of that wholesale overhead that actually does exist. It can definitely exponentially increase your sales, but at a different level of profit margin and with some expenses that you don't necessarily have on the direct to consumer. So as we wrap up, how have all those issues shifted your future business plans? How are you going to approach 2022 and then 2023 so that you can be profitable again?
Yeah, I just want to touch on one thing about that. I think, the relationships that you have with your vendors is key, because they were calling me saying, Michelle, we only have this much left. You're going to have to buy it if you need it. Great. So making sure that you are facilitating and really working on those relationships with your vendors. And it goes both ways, right? If you treat somebody with respect and you treat them and you're not constantly asking for cheaper prices and, you're really talking to them like they're human, I think it makes a huge difference in how your business goes and the prices that you can get. I think that's one of the biggest things. I think also when you start the farmer's market, price your product right. You have to look at your labor. A lot of people don't when they're first starting out and looking at just the cost of goods. Look at the labor that goes into that, because soon somebody's going to be making that product and you're not going to have that labor built in.
We did not pay Michelle to say that. This is something that people have heard from us over and over and over.
Yeah.
We make a big deal of it in Vendor 101 that do not leave your own labor out of that when you're costing and pricing your
and
product.
Overhead.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, overhead's a big one. Even if you're renting a space or you're able to do cottage law and do it out of your house, you still have to bake in that overhead. Talk to other vendors, like, how much overhead are you paying? You're about my size. And that way you can bake that into your cost of goods. I definitely didn't do my cost right. I mean, my bag should have been like $20 when I first started. I'm a pastry chef. I like expensive ingredients. I like flavor over price. So I think that's one of the things too. But going back to your question on what are my plans for 2022, I think the biggest thing for us is we're not looking far out in the future. We're just looking at this year. What can we do in 3 months to move the needle? What can we do in 6 months to move the needle? What can we do in 9 months to move the needle? I think those are the biggest things. And like, where can we generate the most margins from our products? And we need to really focus on that. I think that's going to be big for us. I think our number one goal is profitability in 2022, is getting to that profitability point again, where we can put some money back in the reserve bank and be able to expand or hire on more team members. I think our senior management team members really needs a little bit more help. I'm kind of stretched thin, and so is our marketing and our operations. So getting to the point where we can hire on that person is a big focus of ours. And we're not going to be able to do that until probably 2023, unless something like huge happens. And then just making sure that we are taking care of our employees and really focusing on their, personal health, and making sure that we're keeping everybody safe through all of this. And I think that's been my biggest focus and my biggest eye opener, is that as a leader and as an entrepreneur, if you're hiring somebody, those people, you're responsible for what happens to them when they're in your facility. And knowing that and really caring about that is a huge thing. They're not just people that come and go. They're people that should be treated as team members. So.
And I think that those strong values are what's going to keep Nana Joes Granola strong and resilient and get us through all this on your end. And, the companies that are doing that are the ones that are going to survive all this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
So next time you come to San Diego, you'll have to come see our market.
Yeah, come check us out.
I will, for sure. I definitely will. I would love that.
Perfect. So great talking to you today, Michelle. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today, and big thanks to Gusto for supporting farmers markets, farmers, and food makers by making payroll, HR, and benefits easy and affordable. Find more information and sign up by clicking the Gusto logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Farmers markets are all about connection, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. Connect with people just like you from various parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in the terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. If you're actively involved in a farmers market, please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. If you're looking for further education, check out our online course offerings at farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll have another great episode next week, so tune in.